Hey friends, welcome back to a new episode of Off the Cuff. Today we're looking at Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull reviews from Rotten Tomatoes. This one's going to be a little bit different because the critic reviews for this movie are actually pretty good. It's rated at 77%. And this is the first movie I've done for the Let's Say Nice Things About series that's actually over 50% audience score. And the reason I picked it is while it's an over 50% score, I don't think I've met anybody who really speaks highly of this movie in any real meaningful way. The critics, I don't normally do this. I did a quick glance at the critic reviews, and a lot of them were positive. So I think we'll focus this episode more on the audience reviews and see what they have to say, and we will try and review and critique those. So, without further ado, let's hop on over to the good old Rotten Tomatoes. Even the first few reviews here are actually pretty positive overall. Okay, here we go. This is a 1.5 star. All lame CGI with no story, nothing like nothing like the original trilogy. I mean, I still think the story is pretty okay. You could make the argument it's a little bit more convoluted than it should be or needed to be, but overall, I think it still works pretty well. It's just near the end it gets a little chaotic. This is a 2.5 star. The opening scene sets a strong sense of adventure. Unfortunately, the rest of the film falls flat. Indiana Jones searching for science fiction adjacent relics feels out of place. The Soviets are not portrayed as particularly threatening, and the CGI is noticeably subpar. Indy is better suited to uncovering biblical artifacts which aligns more closely with his character and occupation as an archaeologist. Yeah, this is probably the best explanation I've seen of people being mad that it is the Crystal Skull myth, because when I saw this movie originally, a lot of people were just mad for the fact that it was aliens. Like the meme, the History Channel meme, right? Aliens. And everyone was grumpy with that. But that is the myth of the Crystal Skull, is that it is aliens because nobody in the area had the tools to make it in such a way. But this is a really good way of explaining it, that you can make the argument it's out of his depth because it is archaeology in the strictest sense, but it's not necessarily in Indy's wheelhouse, except to say that he's Indiana Jones and he's a badass. And the only connection they really make to it is when he's being interrogated. They mention how he mentions that he was taken to Roswell in 1947, and the whole we weren't allowed to talk to each other on the bus and blah blah blah. And he doesn't. But that being said, he doesn't know what was actually in the box. This is a really interesting reveal, and it's the first time I've heard somebody really explain why they didn't like the aliens aspect, and I really like that. I'll have to take that into consideration when I think about this movie. 1.5 star. The ending is completely stupid. I knew this as an uneducated teen. Also, halfway through, Indiana Jones is apparently able to pinpoint how different civilizations' leadership thought over a time span of hundreds of years. I know that Dr. Jones is supposed to be smart, but is that ridiculous? Yeah, I can understand the stretch of logic is a little bit too much of a stretch. And I understand that's a lot of people's gripe that I hear is the ending, is the alien ship going into another dimension. Um, I think take a step further. The thing I think that's the dumbest about the ending is, um, you know, the ship goes away to its other dimension, and then the whole valley that they came through like floods, and then it's just a jump cut to, it's Shia LaBeouf is starting to walk down the steps to whatever, and then it's just like a jump cut to the wedding. So it's like, how did we get here? But yeah, I mean, I get it. A lot of people didn't like the ending. Let's see. 2.5 star. Indiana Jones is about archaeology, not aliens. It cannot compare to the first three movies. They shouldn't have made any more indie movies after the first three. It's definitely a good argument as far as you're just milking a franchise. Um, Again, the aliens aspect of it, the connection is the crystal skull, right? The crystal skull is the quote unquote archaeology connection, and then it's the alien myth, right? So, or the idea is that it's aliens. So I get that people don't like that it's aliens, but it's aliens, unfortunately. It just is what it is with that myth. Unless you want to go back and say, hey, maybe we should have picked a different myth. We should have picked something else to do. 2 star, not the best of the series. Good action, but wooden acting. By the way, the Mayans were in Mexico, the Incans were in South America, but not in the area depicted. Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to the Incan and Mayans aspect of it. I had a very, very brief South American, Latin American history class, and I don't remember it because it was back in high school, which was a long time ago at this point. So yeah, I mean, I can't speak to the accuracy of that. Also, sorry if you hear my cat. He's very grumpy with me because he has decided he's on a hunger strike until he's not, and then he is as soon as I try and feed him. So sorry about that. 1 star. As an attempt to update Indiana for the next generation, it's a flub. Yeah, I mean, I I can understand that thought. It's definitely not the best of the series, and especially since the last movie before this one was Last Crusade, which is arguably the best Indiana Jones movie. It's kind of hard to go from Last Crusade to this one. It's a tough pill to swallow. 0.5 star. Terrible movie. I almost walked out of the theater when Indy survived a nuclear explosion in a lead-lined refrigerator at Ground Zero. This movie, along with Dial of Destiny, deserves to be deleted from existence. Again, can't speak to Dial of Destiny. I definitely have heard it's not good, but I'm not making any judgments on that movie until I get a chance to watch it. Um, yeah, I mean, it's dumb. The refrigerator bit's dumb, but it's that like I think with that specifically, they were going with the campy idea where it's like campy dumb, and you're like, yeah, okay, of course this wouldn't actually work for a number of reasons. So you're just supposed to suspend your disbelief on that one and give them benefit of the doubt because it's an Indiana Jones movie. Which if you can't do, that's totally fine, especially coming into 2008. In a way, we were getting more towards kind of like quote unquote realism, or at least like realistic pseudoscience. So it's a little bit, it could be seen as like a bridge too far to try and to try and stretch the imagination to say, all right, yep, survived nuclear explosion in that lead lined refrigerator. Let's see, 1.5 star. I wanted to like it. I love Indiana Jones and the movies, and while the prior did have some magical or artifact powers, this was different. It was like Temple of Doom with less memorable lines or scenes. It's the type of movie where when my kids watch, I leave it out of the series because I don't want to watch it again. I can suffer through Temple of Doom, but not this. And that's an interesting one too because Temple of Doom is one of those fun ones where people like they either love it or they hate it. um, I personally am not a huge fan of Temple of Doom. I, that being said, I would put Crystal Skull on par with Temple of Doom. Take what information from that you will. I think they're both still watchable, and I still think they're both very enjoyable. But yeah, it's interesting to try and put those two on the same pedestal or the same platform. 1 star. This was just not a compelling story. The story based on crystal skulls found by archaeologists would have been more interesting. The whole unknown child trope is also tired. Shia LaBeouf just makes every movie he is in worse. You know, that's fair. The unknown child trope. I guess I didn't even think about that. I did not consider the unknown child trope as far as this goes. It's a great point about the unknown child trope. I hadn't thought about that, and that is completely valid criticism. I wouldn't necessarily say Shia LaBeouf makes every movie he's in worse. I think he does a pretty solid job in this movie for what they give him, and they don't give him a ton, in my humble opinion. They kind of are just like, this is Shia LaBeouf. He's big right now, and let's do the thing. I don't necessarily agree with the Shia LaBeouf comment here, but that's totally legitimate though, especially if you're considering Transformers or Holes. Holes is probably his best movie. But his best work is probably still way back in the day with Even Stevens. 1.5 star. I'm sure this seems like a good idea on paper, but it was a very poorly executed movie. Yeah, that's fair. You could definitely say that they didn't quite hit the mark with it. One of the worst movies ever made. This makes The Room look Oscar worthy. Go watch Disaster Artist. Oh man. Okay, another half star. A sad money grab using the Indiana Jones franchise to draw people in. All I could think of watching this movie was the lethargies and extravagance of Raiders, a skeleton crew for a cast, and over reliance on special effects and a lousy story on top of it all. That's fair. I mean, again, you can definitely make the argument this is a very hollow version of an Indiana Jones film. It doesn't have as much of the charm. What they needed to do with this movie, I think, is they needed to make it a little bit darker. And by darker, I don't necessarily mean it needed to be like rated R, blood and guts and gore. They needed to play this more like Indy's last hurrah, um, which of course that means we wouldn't have gotten Dial of Destiny, 15 years later. But yeah, it needed to be played in a way that this was like his last hurrah, because he was starting to get up there. Let's see if we can find a couple more here. This movie could be used as a torture method. It was so bad. Maybe just the scenes with Kate Blanchett's Russian accent. I could give you that. 2 stars. Yeah, this movie is bad. Not even half as good as the original 3 indie flicks. The only main things I like about this is the villains and that Marion is back, even though she doesn't do anything for the plot. The CG is bad and acting is stiff sometimes. Not a very good movie for such a long wait. How do 53% of people like this? I mean, there's not much to say about that. I can understand. Again, I can understand. I think it fits fine with the other indie movies. Again, it's not outpacing Raiders or The Last Crusade. All right, let's see if we can find one more here, because these are all starting to look very samey as I'm paging through them. Trying to find like a reason, like a bad one, but it's like reasonable and has like good explanations. All right, 1.5 stars. This will be the last one because it's a lot. As you dig deeper into these reviews, they all complain about the same thing, or they all say the same things are good. So this will be the last one. 1.5 star. This was an alright film, but just a bit all over the place. I didn't like the use of CGI, as in my opinion, it just didn't look real enough. However, it still made an interesting watch, but certainly at the bottom of the indie films as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, again, totally fair assessment, especially the CGI stuff. I can understand it. I I've said it in other videos. Any director who makes as much of an effort to use physical props as possible, or physical effects, or make it look that way, will always at least earn the benefit of the doubt. And especially with Spielberg, that's a huge knock when you consider what we got out of Jurassic Park in 1993 and some of his other films where you're using those physical effects. I mean, he definitely knows the right people and he definitely can have a vision for it. And I don't know if it was that the CG is cheaper or was cheaper than doing the physical, which, especially moving more into modern, quote unquote modern, like if you get into the 2010s movies, for example, like The Hobbit movies look worse than Lord of the Rings that had come out 10 years prior. and that's because they leaned into the CG, because the CG was actually starting to be cheaper than the physical effects. But when you don't do the physical effects, you lose quality. So definitely, especially for an Indiana Jones movie, I think it would have behooved them to try and figure out a way to make the physical effects better. All right, I think we'll call it there because, again, looking at a lot of these reviews, they're all very samey. So we will let that be. Thank you all so much for watching. As of this video, um, we are sitting at 7,900 subscribers and we're moving up pretty steadily. And all I can say is thank you. We celebrated 5K. This seems like a weird thing to like say I'm getting emotional about, but like when I originally thought to do Kingdom of the Crystal Skull as a celebration movie, it was when we hit 1K. And it's like, oh, 1K milestone. Let's do Indiana Jones because Indiana Jones is great. And I think it'd be fun to watch this and say that it's, look at the good stuff. By the time the review came out, we were over 5K, and that was in 10 days. And now, doing the off the cuff, we're knocking on the door of 8K. So I just want to say thank you. And the channel growing as fast as it is just stunning and humbling, and I'm using a lot of the same adjectives because that is what it is. That's how I feel. I'm I'm just blown away by all the support and people enjoying what we're doing, and what I'm doing and what's going on. So I really appreciate all of you so much. It really means a lot. Yeah. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already. And if I've earned your trust as a creator, I don't like using some of those terms like creator and content and blah blah blah, but if I've earned your trust as a creator, please hit the subscribe button. And if you didn't like it, feel free to hit that dislike button, and please feel free to tell me what I can do better, because that is what I would like to see. The positive is good. The negative can be even better, because I'm looking to improve and be the best that I can be for all of you. So constructive criticism, I'm always here for it. Positives, I'm always here for it as well. I would any and all feedback, I'm always here for it. So I thank you all, and I'm sorry I'm rambling pretty badly right now. I'm just floored, and I appreciate every single one of you, whether you've watched the video and you really liked it, you hit the like, you subscribed, or you didn't like it and you gave my video a shot. I really appreciate all of you. And I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Thank you all.